we are going to go over the masters of sacred speech, the great grammarians, who are not grammarians in the sense of your fourth grade teacher that are teaching you how to speak correctly, but rather architects and interpreters of consciousness. This is the means by which we have to analyze and interpret consciousness. Tonight we'll be talking about Panini. The position I will attribute to Panini is the text itself. His creation of the Ashtadhyayi, as we'll talk about in the next few minutes, is that thing which got everybody that follows involved in this discourse on speech. Next week, we'll deal with Patanjali, who we all know from Yoga Sutra. And the way that we're going to think of Patanjali is as commentary. He is the first major commentator on Patanjali, on Panini, and he is the one who really establishes the tradition and form of commentary on Panini, which is going to last for 2,000 years after his lifetime. The third master of speech that we'll deal with 2 weeks from now will be Bhartrihari. The way that we'll think about Bhartrihari is that Bhartrihari is going to insert philosophy. He's going to insert meaning. He's going to say, okay, here's the text of Panini. Here is the commentary here's the commentary of Patanjali on Panini, and now what does it all mean? How do we derive meaning from this? This is the role that Bhartrihari is going to play in our conversation. The fourth week, we will move to Abhinavagupta, who many people associate with Kashmiri Shaivism and the various tantras.
Babaji?
Yes?
We weren't able to hear you for the last minute or so.
What was the last thing you heard?
That Patanjali.
Patanjali what?
Week 2, Patanjali.
Just that you began to introduce him as the popularizer of...
Okay. Uh-oh.
Oh, no, that's not what I meant to do.
Yeah, you muted the wrong person.
Shit.
Okay. Are we... do you hear me?
Babaji, you're
Yes.
muted now because I, in an effort to try to get you back, muted you.
Okay, so
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Uh-oh. What happened? Okay. You still can't hear me. Okay. Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Kailash says yes.
Okay, great. Great. Patanjali. Patanjali is the first major commentator on Panini. Of course, there's Katyayana as well, but for the sake of our conversation, we're going to put Patanjali in the next week, and we're going to see him as establishing the form and tradition of commentary on Panini, which is going to go on for about 2,000 years. And Bhartrihari is very much in this, this line of commentary, as is Abhinavagupta. Abhinavagupta may seem to be sort of an independent kind of philosopher and composer of texts, but he's very much in the line of Panini and Patanjali, and his texts are very much commentaries as well. So Bhartrihari will be our focus of the third of this series. We will think of Bhartrihari as adding the element of meaning and philosophy to the discussion and conversation and commentary on Panini. Panini was really not concerned at all with meaning. I think that one of the reasons for this is because it was assumed that anybody sophisticated enough in Sanskrit to study Panini didn't need instruction in meaning. But meaning became a philosophical element for Bhartrihari. So he lived in the approximately 5th century AD, and he will be the subject of our third in this series. The fourth will be Abhinavagupta, who, as many of you know, is associated with Kashmiri Shaivism. He composed a number of tantric texts, and the position that we will assign to him in this conversation is the universalizer. Here is Bhartrihari assigning meaning and giving meaning and the first means of interpretation to the commentaries on Panini. And now Bhartrihari is going to take this and he's going to universalize it, spread it out as well. And there is a great deal of sadhana that also arises from this practice, that arises from this universalizing. In the fifth session, we'll do something very radical, which is we're going to jump to the moderns, and we're going to look at how the moderns have considered Panini and the various directions that some of the thinkers are taking this in the past 50 years or so. Panini, the Ashtadhyayi. Panini lived approximately 2,500 years ago. Most of the academics and scholars that deal with Panini attribute a time of about 500 BC to Panini, although I have heard in the tradition itself there are estimates that go back as far as 1,000 years before that. I have heard traditional people speaking in terms of Panini living around 1500 BC as opposed to the 500 BC that is normally associated with him. He lived in what is now the Peshawar area of Pakistan, which in those days there was the great intellectual center of Takshila, which he was very familiar with, and he lived most of his life in this area. This is a fascinating area. This is the Indus River Valley. This is a enormous meeting place of east and west. This was an area of enormous intellectual activity, artistic activity, and this was a place of contact with the Persians, with the Greeks, and with the first sort of area of that invaders would approach the subcontinent through. There was many others at this point in time that were also in this area. As far as the time period, a number of historians want to give Panini this time period because of his use of a certain word in his Ashtadhyayi, which is yavana. Yavana is normally taken to mean Greek. And if we apply some of the teachings that I've given you in past sessions regarding the syllables to this word yavana, we can derive Ionia, which is, of course, a part of Greece and a way that ancient Greece was often referred to. But in some opinions that this Yavana, and in fact in traditional Indian opinion, Yavana was in fact an Indian tribe, a tribe from the subcontinent that eventually settled in Greece, and that part of Greece became known as Ionia, Yavana. Patanjali had a brother by the name of Pingala, and as Panini is considered the great genius of linguistics and grammar and speech, his brother Pingala was specifically a mathematician. In fact, it's in Pingala's text of obviously the same period as Panini's Ashtadhyayi that we find the first textual mention of the numerical 0. So there are those that attribute the concept and idea of 0 to the brother of Panini. Also in that text is the first known introduction of Fibinaci numbers, which is a wave theory. It's a measurement, a mathematical measurement of natural phenomena that I believe Fibinaci himself determined from watching the ocean waves hit the shore.